Hello guys, my name is Rolando de Leon, and today I will be talking about the story and lore behind Elden Ring.
Elden Ring is a third-person RPG open-world video game in which you play as the Tarnished and are tasked with defeating the evils in the lands between, this universe's version of Earth. To add context, again, we play as the Tarnished. The Tarnished was chosen by the Greater Will, an outer god, a powerful being, and tasked him, or us, the Tarnished, to set things right and bring balance to the lands between. I want to reiterate that this is an open world video game, and since this is the case, there's no right way to play it. You could start from the beginning and go straight to the end if you choose to. The way I'm going to explain the game and its lore is the way that I played it and sort of how it was intended to be played and progressed.
Someone must extinguish thy flame. Let it be Margit the Fell.
Margit is the very first boss that is important to the story the player encounters. Margit is the guardian of Stormveil Castle, the place in which he resides. Without giving too much detail, he is guarding one of the more weaker entities I will talk about in this video. By this point, the world is aware of the Tarnished being picked, and Margit knows that if he does not stop us, we will become a problem. At this point in time, not much is known about Margit, and just serves as the very first roadblock. Again, he is aware of us and knows that we must be stopped. Unfortunately for him, he does not last very long and is ultimately defeated. Godric the Grafted is a runt of the family, the loser if you may. He is the weakest and the disappointment to the lineage of strong fighters that came before him. It is said that he is the son of Godfrey and Marika, however his biological parents are never explicitly stated, and all we know is that he is either the son or relative of Godfrey, which would make him a part of the Golden Lineage, a royal bloodline descendant from the union of Lord Godfrey and Queen Marika. For some unknown reason, Godric was persecuted from Leyndell, a royal city, and was forced to take some treasure and hide amongst the women fleeing. Godric is not only a coward, but a bootlicker. Once he insulted a great female warrior, Malenia, and when he could not fight anymore, he yielded and licked her boot in order to show defeat. This shame and defeat would eat Godric away, as he simply wanted to live up to the great warriors that came before him. This shame would turn him to grafting, the art of sewing the arms and legs to oneself in order to gain strength. Unfortunately, those he was grafting were tarnished, such as ourselves. Sadly for Godric, after years of grafting and killing other Tarnished, he would not last very long, as even grafting a dragon head in the middle of our battle was not enough.
Hush, little Calva. I'll soon birth thee anew, a sweeting, fresh, and pure.
Rennala is the wife of Radagon, a character which we will explain and speak of later, and is the mother of Ranni, Radahn, and Rykard, the Lord of Blasphemy. Rennala is a master of magic and was once a student at the Raya Lucaria Academy, a school of magic, and rose through the ranks and eventually became the master of the academy. The story of how she met Radagon is very simple. They met, fought, fell in love, and had 3 children. After Radagon left her, and Ranni killed her physical form, Rennala went insane. She became obsessed with the idea of rebirth. Rebirth in Elden Ring is to be born anew, which is something the player can do later. To rebirth in Elden Ring, it simply means to change your statistics. At some point in our battle, we enter a second phase. Much to my surprise, we do not actually fight Rennala. We simply fight a construct, sort of a ghost of her, which was left behind by Ranni to keep her mother safe from anyone seeking any trouble.
This way, Tarnished. May I have a word?
As we already know, Ranni is dead. She killed her physical form and sort of became a ghost, although weirdly enough, she still has a physical form. Strange how she killed herself and still has a physical form. Her current form, however, is a doll, and she chose a doll because of her admiration of the Snow Witch, the person who taught her cold sorcery and was like a mother slash mentor to her. She did all of this because she wanted to sever her connection to the Greater Will, a powerful entity that influences the lands between. The Greater Will operates through its servants, and we can assume Ranni was one of them, which is why she severed her connection to it using the Death Rune. Ranni hates the Greater Will so much that she has a plan: dismantle the Greater Will and reform the world. If we choose to aid her, we will enact one of the game's endings, the Age of the Stars, an era of independence in which people are free from their Greater Will and can act freely. Doing this ending also makes us Ranni's consort, her husband, and we can reform the world together, as wife and husband. Ranni's stance against the Greater Will is both daring and admirable. She understands that the way things are going in the lands between is bad, and that the Greater Will is poisoning the lands between, and tasks herself with birthing the world anew. Before I begin, I want to note that this specific section is longer than usual because the character I'm going to speak about next, Radahn, is very important to the lore.
A celebration of war! The Radahn Festival!
Radahn is one of those characters you look at and are just amazed at, and just think to yourself, this guy's awesome. And you would be correct to do that. Radahn is a warrior through and through. The son of Rennala and Radagon is regarded as one of the Lands Between's best champions. Radahn, or Starscourge Radahn, is massive, standing at 25 feet tall and riding his feeble horse, Leonard. Radahn's first name, Starscourge, was not given to him for nothing. Radahn is actually holding back the stars, the literal stars. There's not a real reason for him doing this either. The game just leaves us to speculate as to why. One of my theories is he did it to challenge himself or to learn gravity magic. He uses this to ride his weak horse and to not put too much strain on him. Unfortunately, Radahn is not all there. He's actually a zombified version of his former self. Let me explain by going back and then going back further than that. There exists a thing called the Radahn Festival. This is an event in which the greatest warriors, knights, and fighters gather to fight and kill Radahn, to put him out of his misery and give him the death of that of a champion. Radahn just wanders aimlessly around Caelid, a rot-infested land. There is a reason why Caelid and Radahn are the way they are, though. Allow me to introduce Malenia. She is a one-handed swordswoman and is regarded as one of, if not the best warrior in the Lands Between. Anyways, Miquella, a character we will speak of later, sends a Malenia to fight Radahn. We will also speak of Malenia later on as well. Radahn did not want to be Miquella's consort, his husband. Oh, by the way, Miquella is a guy. I was confused too and thought it was a woman. Also, he is apparently 1,000,000 years old but looks 8. Aside from that, Radahn fought Malenia to a standstill. They fought and fought until Malenia was ready to end the battle. She put on her prosthetic arm and charged Radahn. While fighting, Radahn sliced her arm off, and she was forced to wield her sword with her hand. She pounced on Radahn and pierced his skin. Unfortunately, in order to secure victory, she had to shove the blade with her own body, effectively wounding herself, as when Radahn sliced her arm, her blade shattered and had 2 sharp ends instead of 1. A small cut like this would not mark the end of the battle, as Malenia was forced to bloom the Scarlet Aeonia. In simplest terms, she was forced to nuke the entire area of Caelid to kill Radahn. This battle had no victors, as Malenia died and so did Radahn's mind, as he now roams the rot-infested Caelid deserts mindlessly and aimlessly, as he was forced to consume his friends for sustenance. Godfrey is often regarded as the first Elden Lord, although this is not exactly true. He is the first Elden Lord human. The Elden Lord before him was a dragon. Anyways, Godfrey is a warrior. He's the biggest, baddest, toughest warrior there was. Aside from that, not much is known about Godfrey at this point in time. He serves to test the player and just bumps up the difficulty.
graceless, tarnished. What is thy business with these thrones?
Morgoth is the son of Godfrey and Queen Marika, a character we will go in extensive detail about because she is very, very confusing. Anyways, if you are wondering, yes, Margit and Morgoth are the same character. Margit was simply a projection of Morgoth. Think of it as if you made a ghost version of yourself, but it was not a ghost and it had a physical form, but it was just way weaker than you. That is Margit. When we first see the cutscene of Morgoth, he calls everyone we have talked about up until this point
Willful traitors.
to the Golden Order. The Golden Order is just a group of people under the reign of Queen Marika that believe in reincarnation. It is more of a cult than a religion in my opinion. Anyways, at this point, you are probably wondering why is Morgoth so deformed. It is because he is an omen. Omens in Elden Ring are just beings that are deformed and are deemed unholy by the Golden Order. Most omens are killed during or after birth because of their looks. Marika actually wanted to do that, but Godfrey stopped her. Instead of killing them, Godfrey protected them and sent them to the sewers underneath the royal capital. I say them because Morgoth is not the only omen in the family. Anyways, after everyone left or died, Morgoth stayed to guard the castle and the Erdtree. Although Morgoth tried to claim the title of Elden Lord, the Erdtree would not allow him to enter and claim the title. Instead, he stayed there to guard it of whomever tried to enter and claim the title for themselves. I always thought Morgoth was kind of stupid for this because not only will he never be an Elden Lord, but the Golden Order does not even like him. There's no lore reason as to why he took this task upon himself other than to probably try and fit in, despite not even being liked. The Fire Giant is the last of his kind. He is the thing that stands in our way of burning down the Erdtree to claim the title of Elden Lord. The war against the giants was led by Godfrey. Upon arriving in the mountaintops, Queen Marika issued a proclamation to Godfrey and his warriors, commanding them to put the giants to the sword and confine their flame, so that the age of the Erdtree could begin. In simplest terms, Queen Marika commanded Godfrey and his army to kill the giants. There's not much importance to the fire giants other than that. The fire giants worship the Fell God. The Fell God is an ancient deity worshipped by the fire giants. The Fell God, also known as the One-Eyed God, is an unseen character in Elden Ring. In the middle of the battle, the fire giant sacrificed his own leg and sort of becomes a vessel to the Fell God. After this, the Tarnished, us, approach the Forge of the Giants and take its fire and burn the Erdtree. After this, we pass out and are teleported to the crumbling Fair Missoula, a floating island inhabiting dragons and tough enemies.
Oh, death. Become my blade once more.
Malekith is death. Just like we have our own version of death, whether it be the Grim Reaper or an angel or whatever, in the lands between, death is a dog. I want to add that this is not the first time we meet Malekith. There's an optional quest in the game in which we can feed him death roots, a rose-like item that makes him stronger. When we are feeding him and prior to his face transition, he takes the form of a beggar and goes by Gurranq. Malekith is also the loyal Shadowbound beast and half-brother of Queen Marika. After we defeat Malekith, we are teleported to Leyndell, the royal capital. However, it is not as beautiful as it once was, and is now covered in ash. With death dead, there is no order, and the world falls into chaos. I would like to add that I am choosing to exclude two bosses or characters in this area, the area being the Crumbling Fair of Missoula, and those two characters being the Godskin duo and the Dragon Lord Placidusax. The Godskin duo don't add anything to the lore, so they are not really that important. Placidusax's only importance to the lore is that he was the Elden Lord before Godfrey, and that's really it. He has his own lore, but that doesn't get expanded upon until the DLC, which I also won't cover, at least not in detail.
Upon my name as God
Godfrey is regarded as one of the most aggressive warriors in the Lands Between. His thirst and lust for battle is so immense, he had to tame the lion beast Serash to calm down his lust so that he may rule as a level-headed and fair king. Prior to the taming of Serash, he was an animal in the battlefield. Not only that, but he was such an inspiration to people like Radahn, Godric, and Morgott. Radahn's armor is modeled after Godfrey's, and Godric tried to live up to Godfrey's name and his lineage. Morgott tried to protect his legacy and his kingdom. I would like to add that the Godfrey we spoke about earlier is the same Godfrey as this one. The golden version of him was, again, a projection. I mentioned earlier whilst explaining Morgott's story that, while everyone was gone, he took charge and named himself king of the capital. Let me explain why the real king, Godfrey, was absent this entire time. After killing everything that stood in their way, Godfrey and his armies returned to the capital. Godfrey and his warriors were then informed by Queen Marika that she had divested them of their grace. She drove them from the Lands Between to wage war in the distant land, where they would live and die. Marika promised Godfrey and his men that after their deaths they would regain what she had taken from them. They would return to the Lands Between with the strength required to brandish the Elden Ring. Thus, Godfrey and his kinfolk became the Tarnished. They left the Lands Between together on a pilgrimage known as a Long March. This means that the Tarnished, or the player, is a part of Godfrey's band of warriors that were sent to the Badlands on Queen Marika's order. After we defeat Godfrey, the only thing standing in our way, we are allowed to enter the Erdtree and claim our title. I want to add that there is a boss or a character before Godfrey, and his name is Sir Gideon Ofnir. His importance to the lore is pretty much that he is the all-knowing. Think of him as the Odin of these lands minus the power. He wants to gain as much knowledge as possible to claim the title of the Elden Lord, and we fight him because he sees how close we are, and again, he wants to be Elden Lord. Unfortunately for him, his dreams die with him. Radagon is sort of an ambiguous figure. From what the game tells us, he fought in 2 wars against Rennala in which he sort of apologized to Rennala by bathing in the Celestial Dew. Other than that, we know that he is the father of Radahn, Ranni, and Rykard. By the way, Rykard is a giant serpent hybrid who is not that important to the lore. I'll go over him very briefly. He wanted power, so he offered the all-eating serpent his body and merged with it. That's basically it. Of the 3 children of Radagon, he is probably the least important. He does eat tarnished warriors and gods in the hopes of growing bigger and stronger, but he keeps himself in the Volcano Manor, the place where he resides. This is where things start to get strange. After Radagon left Rennala, he left her an egg. This is where Rennala became obsessed with the idea of rebirth. After this, Radagon went on to marry Marika, a character we spoke of briefly. A sculptor from Leyndell was commissioned to create a statue of Radagon. In doing so, he discovered a secret, that Radagon is Marika. Radagon married himself and had 2 children with Marika, Malenia and Miquella. However, Marika, the female counterpart of Radagon, would go on to marry Godfrey and have 2 children, Morgott and Mohg, both of these children being omens, deformed beings for those needing a refresher. A little after giving birth is when Godfrey returns to the capital as a victor, and this is when she instructs Godfrey and his warriors to the Badlands, all while Mohg and Morgott grow up in the sewers. Now after all that, Marika makes her way to the Erdtree and shatters the Elden Ring with a hammer, which is where we find her, and she assumes the form of Radagon to better combat the Tarnished. After defeating Radagon, we encounter the Elden Beast, the very Elden Ring itself. The Elden Beast is the greater will and the living incarnation of the concept of order. Unfortunately, there's not much to the Elden Beast other than that. After we defeat him, the game ends and the player is free to go back to areas that they have yet to explore or rebirth. Start a new journey in which you start all the way at the beginning, except you keep your items, weapon, clothes, and money.
Heed my words.
I am Melania, Blade of Miquella. And I have never known defeat.
I already went over Melania briefly, so I will summarize what I have said earlier. Miquella sent Melania to fight Radahn, and when she realized she could not defeat him, she nuked the entirety of Caelid when her Scarlet Aeonia bloomed. To do this, Melania had to die. However, this time she didn't. She was left in a coma-like state. Melania survived and was rescued by one of her clean rot knights, Finlay, and brought her to the Haligtree to await her brother's rebirth. I want to add that Miquella's rot is not just a weapon, it is a disease. It is eating her alive. And all throughout her body, she has these woven pieces of fabric, most likely used to halt the progression of her disease so that it does not kill her. It has also been speculated that Miquella did this. During Melania's absence, or her slumber, Miquella was ripped from the womb of the tree and taken away by Mohg, Lord of Blood, before he could emerge from his cocoon. Eventually, we, the player, meet Melania, fight her, and defeat her, in which she blooms once more and ascends to godhood, and becomes the Goddess of Rot, which also happens to be the name of her second form.
And my promised consort, Radahn.
Miquella is a character that is incredibly mysterious. What we do know is that Melania is a sister of Miquella. Because Miquella is cursed with youth, Melania became his sole protector. We already know that while Melania was recovering from her battle with Radahn, Mohg, Morgoth's brother, stole him from the Haligtree and took Miquella to the Mohgwyn Palace. Mohg did this because he wanted to ascend to godhood with Miquella. However, Miquella did not feel the same way. So he used Mohg and filled his mind with the idea that they would be gods together. He did this because he was in a fragile state, and with Melania recovering, nobody could protect him. After we defeat Mohg, we are allowed access to the DLC. I won't go over the DLC too much and will only talk about Miquella. As we progress through the DLC, some pillars of light are visible, and the inscriptions read, "Here I abandon my," and then a part of his body. The purpose of this is to show us that Miquella is abandoning his current form in order to ascend to godhood, which he does. Remember, Miquella is cursed with youth and can't do what he wants to do alone. He needs a consort. Remember earlier when I said Miquella sent Melania to fight Radahn? It was for this purpose. Unfortunately, Miquella cannot use Radahn's scarlet rot form, so she chose Mohg instead. After we kill Mohg, Miquella takes his body and uses it to bring back Radahn and make him his consort. We know this because Radahn is smaller in the DLC and because Miquella charmed Mohg. The purpose as to why Radahn was chosen is because he was the biggest and the best. There was never a runner-up. Radahn has all the qualities of a lord. He was kind and strong and truly lived up to the title of being a lord.
Now cometh the age of the stars, 1,000-year voyage under the wisdom of the moon. Here beginneth the chill night that encompasses all, into fear, doubt, and loneliness, as the path stretcheth into darkness.
Burn a tree. Surround.
In regard to the Age of the Stars ending, The Elden Reed wiki reads, "The Tarnished helps Ranni fulfill her version of the Lands Between without the Golden Order, by allowing her to replace Marika in godhood and taking the role of her consort. Ranni ushers in a new order, not of gold, but of the stars and moon of the Chill Night." Rather than make herself and her order objects of worship, she chooses instead to keep her order and the Lands Between at a great divide, removing the certainties that existed during Marika's rule. There are a few more endings, but this is the one most players consider canon, so this is the only ending that I will include. This is also the ending most players do on their first playthrough, including myself. That pretty much sums up the entire lore. There are a lot of characters I did skip and choose not to talk about, but that's because I don't want the video to be too long and I don't want to drag on and on. If I did include everyone, the video would be about 9 hours long. I just wanted to go over the big name characters because they are way more impactful. Anyways, thank you.